And that's the bottom line. What? Cause Stone Cold said so. 1, 2.
There's 2 now.
It doesn't matter if the Rock has the three.
Newsflash, you pencil neck geeks! If I wanted to hear your opinions, I would turn on TLC and watch reruns of my 600-pound life. So shut up!
Shut up, bitch! Oh my God!
You could ask me anything. You could have asked me about AEW.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of the Wrasslin Report. I am your host, Tommy Maloney, and I am very, very excited to get into episode 2 because we have a lot to talk about. And actually about that. So as we all know, this podcast is going to be me reviewing AEW Dynamite every single week, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that I think I'm only going to review the best parts of it because my goal with this podcast is I'd like to keep the average duration somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes because I don't want to overload you with information, especially since you're all new wrestling fans. I don't want to just hammer away at like every single thing on the show because I could be here forever doing that. Seriously, I can really ramble if I let myself go. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the best parts of the show and dive deep into those specific things so then I don't go on forever. I can keep it between 20 to 30 minutes, an average good time. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I was really excited about recording episode 2 because this is the first time we as a group are all going to be diving into the actual show, the content of the show. And don't worry, I'm going to be guiding you into it. I'm going to be helping you understand why people like and don't like certain things. I'll just be kind of helping you understand what's going on. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing that I really want to highlight about the show is the progression of the Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega feud. Now, in case you don't know what this is or you didn't watch the show, that's completely okay. AEW has a YouTube channel. Literally just search All Elite Wrestling. It is the first YouTube channel that comes up. It is verified. They have, let me check, they have 1.78 million subscribers as of the recording. And you can see the clip of Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. It is the number 2 moment of the week, according to them. They rated that. It is titled, It's Official, Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship, AEW Dynamite 11/25/20. That is what we are going to be talking about. So, let me just give you a brief history of who Jon Moxley and who Kenny Omega is so you can actually, give a crap. So Jon Moxley is like your typical lone wolf tough guy. He's always wearing a leather jacket. He's always wearing the same jeans, the same boots, like every single time you see him. They're cool pants, by the way. I kind of want his pants. But he's kind of a loner, and he's a tough guy. He's really, really good on the microphone. Anytime he cuts a promo, it's mind-blowing. It's funny because in real life, he's more of a quiet, introverted, kind of keeps to himself kind of guy. But man, when you put a camera on the guy and you tell him to talk, he can go off. To me, he is probably the best week-to-week promoist in wrestling right now. He's really, really good. He's unbelievable. And Jon Moxley has had quite a journey to get to where he is today. He grew up dirt poor, came from the streets of Cincinnati, Ohio. He worked his way up from some really low-tier independent promotions, which you can just search Jon Moxley old promos and you can see videos from when he was really, really young. He's almost reminiscent of Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. A lot of his promos kind of give off that Joker vibe. He was a really scary individual back then. Not that he's not now, but he was like a psycho back then. And you could find just old clips of him cutting promos, and he's as good as he ever was back then. And he's the same now, but he's a little bit more mellowed out now. And that's because I think he's a little bit older. He's been through a lot more. He went to WWE for, I think, a good 7 to 8 years. He had a nice long run there, but he decided to leave WWE because he didn't like how they were booking him and how they were presenting him on TV. They kind of made him a goofball, and they didn't always consistently book him to be a strong character. So he didn't really like that, and he couldn't cut his own promos, and that's really important to him, is that he can cut whatever he wants on the mic. He can say whatever he wants because he is that good. Somebody who's as good as Jon Moxley on the microphone should be given free reign to just go off on the microphone, but he wasn't. In WWE, they'd usually cut or they'd usually write for him some garbage, scripted, cheesy horse crap for him to just say on the microphone, and it came across so bad, and it just didn't sound like him. It didn't sound like he enjoyed himself, and he didn't. He's gone on so many different podcasts. He's gone on Talk is Jericho, and he talked about how miserable it made him. It's unbelievable how depressed it made him. So he left once his contract ran up, and he jumped ship over to the new dog in town, AEW, and he's been having the run of his life. He's been having so much fun, and you can tell, too. He's having a ball. He can cut his own promos, and that's really where he shines in this company, is every single time this guy picks up a microphone or you put a camera on him to talk, he hasn't missed yet. He cuts some really good promos that sometimes he blends real life into them. He tells stories from his childhood. Like I said, he kind of grew up dirt poor, and his dad, I believe, was an alcoholic, and he basically had to raise himself. So he kind of had a rough upbringing. So a lot of the times he'll mention that in his promos, and it makes it feel so much more real and authentic. And man, it's so awesome when the line between fantasy and reality is blurred in pro wrestling. It makes it feel so much more real and authentic, and you believe in what they're saying on the microphone, and you can invest in what they're saying, and it just makes it so much better. And he's really able to do that very, very well, better than most people. And the types of matches that Jon Moxley is known for doing is these ridiculously hardcore / dumb / crazy / garbage wrestling. And when I say garbage wrestling, I mean he actually literally takes like garbage cans and steel chairs and barbed wire and thumbtacks, and he bumps around in them. He uses them as weapons. He'll fall in them. Like, he puts his body through some ridiculous damage that I'm sure he's going to regret someday. But it's entertaining for us to watch, so I guess we can't really complain. And then on the flip side, you have a guy called Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is quite possibly the complete polar opposite of Jon Moxley. The type of wrestling that he is known for is really fast-paced, high-risk, Japanese type of wrestling. He came from a company called New Japan Pro Wrestling. He worked his way to New Japan, and over in Japan, the style of wrestling is much, much different than it is here in the States. It's much more based around the athleticism of wrestling and some of the more spectacular moves that you can pull off, which Kenny Omega can. He is one of the most athletic wrestlers we have working today. I'd go as far to say he's probably the best in-ring performer of this generation. So you have like a guy like Jon Moxley, who's considered a quote-unquote garbage wrestler, up against like the best bout machine, that's Kenny Omega's nickname, one of the best in-ring performers of this generation. It's just a clash of styles, and it's awesome. It's so awesome just to see an in-ring general up against a street fighter, kind of. And it's, their styles clash, but it's a good clash. They have fought before, and oh man, the last time that these two got in the ring together, I kid you not, this is not wrestling hyperbole, this is real. The match got so violent that AEW was literally fined by the state of Maryland, and they were told to never do this again. It was that bad. They had mouse traps in this match. They had a pit of barbed wire. It was, I can't even begin to tell you. They fought at a pay-per-view called Full Gear in 2019, and it was essentially a paradigm shift for the world of wrestling as we knew it. Like, it was a complete throwback to back in the day when this type of stuff was normal, but, you know, we haven't seen this type of violence in, you know, years. It was unbelievable how violent it was. So it very much pandered to Jon Moxley's style, and I think that's why he won. And that's the beauty of wrestling, you know what I mean? Like, they tell stories because that's Mox's style. He won the match, and they booked him to win that match. See, that's kind of where wrestling becomes fun. You start to think of it from a backstage perspective, and the reason Jon Moxley won that match is because it pandered to his style. Now, here we are 1 year later. This is what I was getting to. We are now getting a rematch between Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. And right now, Jon Moxley is the current AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and Kenny Omega is the number one contender, and they are set to face next week on Dynamite. Oh boy, that is going to be an exciting episode to review. Stay tuned for episode 3, cheap little plug. But this time, it is a regular wrestling match. This is where Kenny Omega is going to thrive over Moxley. Like I said, he's probably the best in-ring performer of the generation. So they're probably, this is my guess, they're probably going to book him to win. And Jon Moxley has had an incredible reign as world champion. He has been the world champion since a pay-per-view called Revolution in late February of this year. So he's held that belt for a long time now. And I think it would only be fitting if Kenny Omega was the one to dethrone him after Jon Moxley essentially broke him last year, after Kenny Omega decided to venture into Jon Moxley's style of wrestling. Now Mox has to enter Omega's world of putting on a high-performance match. And we're going to see what happens, but I still think because this is in Omega's comfort zone, we're going to see him pick up the dub. So basically this past year, a lot of snarky fans have been just adding Omega on Twitter saying, "Oh, you're not what you used to be in New Japan. You're not putting on the greatest matches ever like you did in New Japan. You're not the cleaner Kenny Omega," and that was his nickname, the cleaner. And they're basically just saying he's a fluke and he's a shell of what he used to be. So recently, these past few weeks to a month, he's kind of been going back to his roots of being the cleaner again. He comes out with a fancy new entrance where there's a colorful sheet blocking the entryway to the ramp, which he comes out of. It's like a colorful sheet where if he stands behind it, it makes it look like a page from a comic book or something like that. And then he bursts through it. He comes to the stage, and there's 2 dancing girls that are awaiting him. And he makes his way down the ramp. He usually has like his suit on. He's looking real dapper, real nice, and that's it. He's starting to walk around with that cocky attitude that he used to have, and I think people are really appreciating that, especially going into a match with Mox where a year ago he lost, and people were like, yeah, it's because he's not what he used to be. Well, now he's back to what he used to be, so they can shut up, and I think because of that, I think he's going to beat Jon Moxley. That's just me. I think they're going to have him win. So basically what went down on Dynamite was that there was going to be a contract signing for the AEW World Championship match that's taking place next week. And a contract signing between these two was going to happen last week. But what happened was when Moxley was going to make his way to the ring, he got attacked backstage and we saw him get attacked, but we didn't know who attacked him. But we do assume that it's somebody that Omega sent to get him attacked. So what happened this week was when Omega was making his entrance, he was standing behind the colorful sheet, and then we see this figure appear behind him, somebody walk up behind him, and it ends up being Jon Moxley, and he starts beating the shit out of him, and he throws him into the ring, right over like the table that has the contract on it with the pens and stuff like that, with the title there. It was awesome. It was a good revenge from last week. And then Moxley grabs a mic, and we all know what's going to happen when he grabs a mic. Golden stuff happens. Good shit. So he talks on the microphone, cuts a really good promo about how, like, whoever you sent to beat him up last week obviously did not get the job done, and he has to do something that nobody's been able to do in 18 months, and that's beat him for the World Heavyweight Championship. AEW has booked Jon Moxley like an absolute beast. And when it is done right, when they book somebody as dominant as him for as long as they have, and they do it right, it is the best thing in the world. And they've done it right. So he has been unstoppable since he debuted in AEW. And it looks like, at least to me, Omega is going to win this. And if he does, I think it would be the perfect storybook ending to this feud that started all the way back last year at the beginning of Dynamite. But Moxley and Omega wasn't the only good microphone work that we got on Dynamite. We got some really, really good stuff between Taz and Cody Rhodes. So Taz is an absolute legend in pro wrestling. He's been in WWE. He's been in ECW promotion. And ECW was a promotion that was very much a hardcore promotion back in like the late 90s. Very popular back in the day, and he was an icon there. So he's in AEW now, and he's more like a mentor figure to some of the new up-and-coming talent that's in AEW now. He has taken guys like Will Hobbs, Ricky Starks, and Brian Cage under his wing, and he basically has this championship called the FTW title that was a championship in ECW that he held, and it doesn't really mean anything in AEW. He puts it on one of his guys, Brian Cage, as kind of like flair, just to show him as like a tough guy that totally means business, and like it's basically just to make him look good. It's like an ornament basically. And Taz came out and he started spitting on the mic saying he's sick and tired of it being an ornament and he wants it to actually mean something in AEW. So what happened was he essentially hijacked the show. He said he was not going to leave the ring until somebody from management comes out and makes the FTW officially a title in AEW. But instead, what happened was we had Cody Rhodes come out. He's a member of the Elite, one of the guys that runs AEW. He came out and he started spitting on the mic as well. He's another great mic worker that consistently puts on really, really good promos every single week. Basically, all he told Taz is that he'll think about it and he'll basically shoot the idea up to Tony, the owner of AEW. And Taz was having none of that. He's like, okay, to quote him, he called it corporate bullshit. And he's like, what are you going to tell me? The creative is nothing for me, which is something that WWE tells their employees all the time. It basically just means they don't really care about them at all. They're just signed to not go anywhere else because that's what WWE does. They sign wrestlers so then they don't make waves and buzz in any other wrestling promotions outside of WWE. And the next thing that Taz says is, what are you going to tell me next? You're going to wish me the best of my future endeavors? Which, whenever WWE releases somebody, they always say, we wish blah blah the best, all the best in his future endeavors. It's literally like their catchphrase. So this is what got Cody to snap, and he came in the ring and he basically told Taz that, oh yeah, I know that your son is training to become a professional wrestler. Why is he not training with you if FTW is so important and he's training with me instead? And everybody in the crowd gasped, and it was a great moment. There's these certain little like unscripted moments in AEW that you really don't get in WWE nowadays. Even though I think that was in the script, just the way they actually can say it is unscripted, you know what I mean? Like, it's very off the dome. They probably have like an outline of what they have to get across, but they can say it however they want. And man, that's what I love about AEW so much. It's just their promo work and what they say on the microphone is so unbelievably great. And it's just, it feels so real and so genuine. And even after Taz's mic got cut off, you could hear him telling Cody, he's like, I can't believe you did that. That was crazy. And then he just walks off. Great moment. Absolutely terrific moment. I had to cover that. Just another example of AEW outshining every other wrestling promotion on the market right now when it comes to mic work. And again, if you missed the show, both of these moments are available on AEW's YouTube channel for free. You can check them out at All Elite Wrestling. It's verified, and you can see all of the clips from Dynamite. Not even just what I'm talking about. Everything from Dynamite you can see on there. They're really, really good about uploading little clips from matches and promos and segments from the show onto YouTube. They just upload everything. So it's a really, really great tool to have, especially if you like can't watch it or you can't watch the show live. You can always depend on the YouTube clips being uploaded, and you can always check them out at any time. It's great. So I think before I completely ramble on to other things on Dynamite, I think I'm going to stop right there. We covered Jon Moxley versus the Kenny Omega feud, and we also covered the Taz and Cody interaction segment, which was also amazing. Like I said, if I really let myself go, I can go on forever about this stuff. So I'm going to stop myself right here. I'm going to contain it, and I'm just going to let you simmer in this new information that I'm giving you. Because as a new wrestling fan, I know it can be overwhelming. I know you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, even after watching the clips on YouTube. So I'm just going to keep it short, sweet, to the point, and easy to digest. That's what I really, really want from this podcast. So I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in for the Wrasslin Report. This is the second ever episode that I've ever done. Get ready for episode 3. Every single week, I'm going to be uploading new reviews for Dynamite. It's going to be awesome. We're just getting started, like I said last week. And get hyped, because it's only going to get bigger and better. We got a lot of things to talk about. And Next week, winter is coming, guys. Winter is coming for AEW. It is a big week. We have some really, really big matches. The biggest match on the card, Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. I'm so excited for that. Cannot wait to talk about it. And I oh so dearly hope that you're going to be here to dissect it with me. So that's it for me. I am your host, Tommy Maloney, for the Wrasslin Report. I will catch you next week for episode 3. See you guys later.